Outlining is one of the most important use cases that people use AI for in their writing. Even if you have no intention of using AI in other areas of your writing, there's a good chance that you have at least tried, if you're watching this video, to outline using AI. And in this video, I'm going to give you the top ways to do this. We'll start with tip number one, which is the most important in my opinion, which is to use a framework. If you just give it a synopsis and ask it to create a detailed outline for you, it's not going to be that good of an outline. However, if you have an existing outlining framework, something like the hero's journey or Save the Cat or what have you, then you're able to use that information in your outline, and it can then create a much more detailed outline from that information, and one that is structured in such a way as to create a compelling story. So for instance, if we're using ChatGPT for this, which I do think that ChatGPT might have a slight edge over Claude when it comes to outlining, although the two are relatively the same and you can use them both interchangeably. You could try both to see which one works better for you, but I'll just be using ChatGPT for this demonstration. I have this synopsis that I've used in the past for a past video, which is for an epic fantasy dragon shifter book, and it's already in a basic outline structure using the act, the 3-act structure of Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. But then here, after, before I get to this, I can go ahead and say, using the, and let's just say, Save the Cat beat sheet, write a series of important scenes to cover in this novel. And then I can give it, obviously, the entire story beneath that, and then it knows the Save the Cat beat sheet, and so it is now able to take that information, and now it has given me the 15 important beats to hit using Save the Cat. We have the theme stated: break into two, fun and games, bad guys close in. Now actually, I think it actually got this a little bit wrong. It's doing things out of order. Yeah, it actually skipped a few here. So one of the things you might want to do is ask it what it knows about the Save the Cat beat sheet, and then ask it to apply that logic to the thing. The reason it didn't give me all of them right now is because I think it also thought I was giving it an outline, and so it didn't need to give me everything. So definitely make sure you have that on hand so that it doesn't mess up. And this actually is a good segue to my second most important point regarding outlines, and that is sometimes you might want to actually bring your own story structure. In this case, it actually got a few things about the Save the Cat beat sheet wrong, and so you could correct it by giving it a summary of the Save the Cat beat sheet that you already have on hand, and then put that into the AI and tell it to do what it does with that. I also, personally, I like to use the 24 chapter novel outline, which is something that the AI doesn't necessarily know. And so I wrote an article about it on my website. In theory, I could paste this entire article in there or use it with Code Interpreter or Claude's 100K limit. But I created this quick summary here of the 24 novel outline specifically so I could easily copy this and then paste it here into the AI and just say, give me a detailed outline of this book using the following outline structure. And then it should be able to generate the entire book using 24 chapters, in this case 24 with an optional 25th chapter. And here it goes. It's already giving me the information about each chapter, and this is a great way to start out, and it's a great way to use a structure that it might not inherently know that you can still use to create amazing outlines. If you have your own outlining structure, say you have a chapter structure that you particularly like and that you've used multiple times, you can put that in here and use it that way. Now, another really cool trick that I've seen people use is to ask it for chapter types, because every genre tends to have certain scenes, obligatory scenes, that only really happen in that genre or that subgenre that you're looking at. And the phrase that seems to work the best, although you could also use things like tropes or obligatory scenes or things like that. But the phrase I've heard used that seems to work the best is chapter types. And I'll give you one example of what this looks like. Give me a list of, and we'll just say 20 chapter types for a heist plot. And heist is a good one because there's a couple of very obligatory scenes in a heist that you wouldn't necessarily find in your basic generic scene structures like like Hero's Journey or something like that. And so if we want to get a sense for what those are, we just ask it for different chapter types. And now, as you can see, it is giving us a couple of different chapter types for use in the outline. And for a heist novel, things like gathering the crew, that's an important step in the overall process. Getting the inside man, doing a stakeout, betrayal in the ranks, and so forth. And then there's the getaway, there's the double cross. All of these things are very common in outlines on this particular heist genre, or subgenre, I should say. And so having it do this exercise, picking the very, very sub-niche that you are using, and then getting ideas like this is a great way to augment your outline. What you can now do, say that I've already created a 24 chapter novel outline. I can go through this list, make sure that each one can either be folded into an existing chapter, or if I have to make a new chapter to cover that obligatory scene within that genre. It's a really great way to get a list of important scenes that you might have otherwise missed, and a great way to do genre research while you're at it. My fourth tip for flawless outlining is to use a specific outlining style. Now, a lot of people, we talk a lot about this in AI, is having a good style prompt. And most people think that just applies primarily to things like your prose. But really, a style can be used in multiple different instances, including during the outline. So for instance, if we're using ChatGPT, we can go here to custom instructions if you're not using the free version, turn it on, and then you can put different styles in here that are styles specifically geared to enhance your outlining. So for example, some things I might put are cliffhanger chapter endings to hook readers, or interconnected plot threads with clues leading to big reveals, or grounded realism, or you could even put something like in the style of Brandon's or of a Brandon Sanderson outline. So if you have a particular author that you like the way they plot, you could put their name in here. And I personally don't think there's as much of an ethical issue with that than it would be with writing the prose. A lot of people say there's no ethical issues with this whatsoever. I disagree. I think there are many layers of gray, but it is true that you cannot copyright a style. And so I like the way Brandon Sanderson outlines. And so I think maybe if I could put that in there, maybe it'll have an understanding of what an outline by Brandon Sanderson, what a plot structure by Brandon Sanderson might look like. And so we can put that in here, then hit save. And now as I continued plotting, it will actually be a little bit better. You could also put things in there like you are an expert plotter. You write best-selling novels or best-selling synopsises, that kind of thing. There's a lot you could put in there that should give it just a little bit of an edge and make it just a little bit better at plotting. My fifth and final tip is to begin with the end in mind. This is a fantastic thing that I discovered, and I've done one video about this before, but basically, if you give the AI the ending of your novel, it will be much better able to plot everything that comes before. Because if you imagine the AI as like a GPS guidance, and you need to get to a destination, if you just start on that destination and your phone doesn't know where it's going, but it keeps telling you to like turn left here, turn right here, you're not going to get where you need to go. But if you have a destination, the GPS is able to direct you to the appropriate location. And so if you can do the same thing with AI, which is essentially working in the same way, by using probability to figure out where it should go next. If you give it the ending, it will do a much better job at plotting. And so one of the things that you can do would be give me 10 possible endings for a heist novel that uses the scene, the chapter types above, since we're going with the same chapter type thread here. But usually, like, you could use this at any point. So I tend to do this in the brainstorming stage. I'll say brainstorm a bunch of different endings for me, and then from there it's able to generate a bunch of endings. I pick what I like, I maybe modify it a bit to my own liking, and then when in the outlining stage, I say here is the ending, and then we work backwards to figure out how it gets to that ending, and it does a much better job at doing the general outlining. Those are my 5 tips for a great outline. I'll see you in the next video.